What's up there, brothers of the flesh and of the spirit? Talking about women on our series of talking about dealing with females. We're going to talk about, for those of you who might be old enough to date a woman who has children. Some of you guys, you young guys, girl might have a kid already at 14 or 15 years old. But as a general rule, I think it's pretty safe to say that when we think of a situation that's ideal, I don't think anyone is, being with a single mother is at the top of anyone's list. Even if you don't mind being with a woman that has children or a child, I don't think it's the first choice. It's not ideal. I think ideally most of us would probably agree that we're looking for that the ideal situation would be a girl who that we get along with and obviously can love, respect, and admire, has the qualities. Someone, as I just shortly put it, say, who works for you. She just works. It works for me. And then ideally, if you're looking to get married and start a family, you would, like to start everything fresh. That's ideal. But as we go along in this life, we understand that not many things are going to be ideal. Probably very few of them are going to be the perfect scenario, the perfect, most ideal scenario. Doesn't exist under most, if any, circumstances. Very few. I think the answer to the question, should you date or should you consider a single mother? I think in most of the MGTOW programs that you're going to see online, and most guys are going to say flat out, well, no, never, under no circumstances. I would say there are exceptions to every rule. What do I mean by that? Not all single mothers are created equal, right? I have gone out with a couple of ladies who had children. One had one child, other one had two children. Both of these women, one was very successful, owned her own business, owned her own home, and had two children from a marriage that she had been in for, I think, at least 10 years. The other one was similar, professional as well, had a career, had very talented, not just a career, but talents as well. She had one child that she had from a marriage that she was in when she was very young and had probably been married about 10 years, maybe a little bit, both of them maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit under, but somewhere around, both of them around that 10-year mark. Now there is a stark contrast between these women and a woman who has a child or especially multiple children by multiple men, and she's never been married to any of those guys. There's a huge difference between the two scenarios, wouldn't you agree? So if you're looking at a woman who has had children and she has been married, and that marriage was for some time, a decade, let's just say, 7 years, 8 years, whatever that the time period was, and they actually were a family and had a life together, that's a bit of a different scenario than, like I said, girls who have never been married to the father of their children, especially if they have more than one child by multiple men and they've never been married to any of those guys ever. You're going to obviously treat those two situations a bit different. You're going to look at them a bit different, So obviously we can all come up with a bunch of negatives, reasons why you might want to stay away from a single mother. Are there any positive ones? I would say yes, there are some. There are some, such as the fruit doesn't fall too far from the tree. And if you get to witness this child at some point be around this child or even just observe the child. I would be a little bit hesitant about a woman who's real quick to bring her children around you or her child around you. You haven't even known her. I mean, if she's really got her act together and she's legit, she should be very cautious about bringing bringing people into the lives of her children, right? So that's a good sign to look for. If she's not eager to just bring you around her kid, right away, within a short period of time, that's something you want to kind of caution yourself about. If she's really eager to do that, you can learn a bit from those children. What she should be doing is meeting, and if she doesn't suggest it, you should suggest it. The way you should first meet this kid or observe this child is in a public setting. I would suggest something along the lines of just meeting up with her at the park, and if she takes her kid to the park regularly or sometime, let her take her kid to the park, and you just kind of happen to show up there. And she's sitting on a park bench and you're just a guy walking along, and you just come and sit on the park bench and talk with her, and her kid comes up and you can talk with the kid and so on and so forth. And as far as the kid is concerned, you're just some guy who was walking through the park and just kind of came along and happened along and sat down. That's a good scenario to meet a kid. I think it should be done under that circumstance or something like that. And then you can observe this child, and a lot of times you'll find out certain things. If this kid is a spoiled brat, unruly, throwing tantrums and so on and so forth like that, it may be a strong indication that mommy acts like that. If she allows it, that's a problem. If the child is mimicking her behavior, that's a problem. So these are things that you can kind of take a look at. However, if that child is very respectful and very well behaved, articulate, things that you would see as positive qualities of the kid, then that might be something you want to consider. That's a positive, that's something positive for you to consider. So this is just a brief kind of overview of some of the things that you can look at. But if you kind of go based on this, you should be headed in the right direction. Is the kid neat and clean? And we all know kids get dirty, but how does she keep the child? Are they dirty? Do they have good table manners, things like that? If you get further along in the relationship and you actually wind up going out to dinner or lunch, or if there's even if you're just in the park and there's a little food truck or something, or a little food stand or whatever nearby, and you kind of pull off a little instant date kind of scenario, like, hey, let's just sit over here and grab some fries or whatever it is that you eat, iced tea, whatever. And you can observe the kid. Does the kid interrupt you and mommy when they're talking, or do they say excuse? Do they tap mommy on the leg or on the shoulder and say, excuse me, mommy, first? Things like that you want to look at. Well, the kid's behaviors. Things, like I said, is the child well-mannered? Do they have manners? Are they articulate? I mean, you can observe some things about this child. If they seem to be a little bit behind in where, for their age and how they should be speaking or being able to comprehend things, depending on where you're at and what you're willing to, what kind of wagon you're willing to hitch yourself to, that might be something that you want to consider as well. So these are some of the traits. Take notice of some of the things the kid says about mommy, might blurt out, or about, kid might give you some clues. Kid might mention some dude that was at that by mistake, unwittingly, say too much. Some dude that left the house this morning and stayed over last night. Who knows, what that kid might let you in on. Might blurt out about a fight or argument that mommy was in with somebody, you know. So the kid might kind of let on different things. You just have conversation with the child if you get to that point. So a lot of times just paying attention and observing, having your eyes wide open. So these are some of the scenarios in which you could possibly make things work with a single mom, a quality mom. Again, that's a quality woman, whether she's had children already or not, is going to be different than a woman who is not that high a quality. And if you do encounter a woman who's had a child or children by a man she was never married to, is that an instant turn down? Well, I think anybody's worth a conversation. And so you can kind of see where her head's at. Maybe some things have changed. Maybe she's undergone some dramatic changes in her life to her levels of emotional maturity since that happened. How does she speak about that? Does she talk about things that she's learned, or a way that she used to be, or kind of how she's is can you see some, can you detect a significant amount of growth in the person that she was when she got pregnant and had that child or those children with that guy or those men, versus how long ago that was and how about now? You know, things like that you can look out for. So this is just a kind of a little brief overview, and I hope it helps you.